Hi, and welcome to the Men on the Path to Love podcast, the Let's Talk About Sex Part 2 episode. I'm Bill Simpson, your host. I coach men who are struggling in relationship, how to communicate effectively, build trust, and deepen intimacy so that they can be the best version of themselves in relationship and live the life they love. All right, so let's talk about sex, specifically being mindful when it comes to sex. You know, I've talked about the importance of mindful communications in a previous episode. Well, being mindful applies to sex and all aspects of the relationship. You may recall that being mindful or mindfulness is about being totally present without judgment to your thoughts, feelings, and body sensations in the moment. And there's research out there that says where men tend to prioritize a woman's physical appearance, women are actually more attracted to men who are mindful. There's also research that says being mindful in relationship is a major forecaster of satisfaction in the relationship. You see, those who are mindful in relationship tend to be more emotionally mature. They handle their feelings better, like anger and anxiety. They're more empathetic towards their partner, and so on. And this is definitely a recipe for a more sustainable relationship. So maybe applying mindfulness in the bedroom just might be good for the relationship. Well, makes sense to me. And I know for me, it has made a huge difference in the level and quality of intimacy in my relationship and in the relationship of many of my clients. Let's take, say, Earl, not his real name. Earl was struggling in his relationship, especially when it came to sex. He said that in the beginning of the relationship with his wife, Marcia, not her real name, things were pretty hot and heavy. As the years went by, their lovemaking began to slow down, and eventually it was few and far between. This is quite common in relationships, actually. So Earl talked to me about it, and he said that he and his wife Marcia get along great. Just when it comes to sex, she doesn't seem very interested. He said that usually it only happens on special occasions like his birthday, Valentine's Day, and so on. So I asked Earl if he had talked about it with Marcia, and he said not really. You know, he said that he complained about not having sex, and she would come up with excuses, like she was tired or not in the mood, etc. And so he just left it at that. That's when we talked about going a little deeper in the conversation and approach it more mindfully, making sure that she felt seen and heard. You know, the stuff that I talked about in Let's Talk About Sex Part 1. I then suggested that he have a heart-to-heart talk with Marcia, make himself vulnerable and tell her what he was feeling and what he needed, and find out what she was feeling and what she needed. We did a little role-playing where I pretended to be Marcia and asked him to be vulnerable and tell me how he felt and what he needed. He thought the role-playing was silly and was like, well, all right, I feel horny and I need sex. And we both laughed because we knew this approach, of course, wouldn't land very well. So we tried it again, and this time with me pretending to be Earl and Earl pretending to be Marcia. I said something like, I realize you've been really busy with all that's going on for you, and I just want to let you know that I miss you, and I miss our lovemaking, and I need us to make some time to reconnect. And I know I get busy and distracted too, and I need you to let me know when you feel the need to connect as well. Earl was funny. He joked and asked if I could come to his house and do it for him. and we laughed and he got it. He said that he would give it a try. Well, Earl came back and said that they had the talk and that it went pretty well for the most part. He said that she was pretty frank, that she would like to make love more often, but that she felt that his approach to sex was kind of like wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And she said that just wasn't working for her. Well, this was a blow to Earl's ego, yet he was able to keep it in check and asked her what she wanted. And she said she wanted more romance, more foreplay, and to slow things down and really feel connected. Well, this terrified Earl because this was totally out of his comfort zone. He said that he basically learned about sex through watching porn and through a few previous relationships. So I asked him what he thought he could do, and he said that he really didn't have a clue. Then he asked me, what do I do? And I was like, that's none of your damn business. No, I'm just kidding. I told him that I could give him some suggestions for being mindful in the bedroom. I said, you could start by creating a safe and sexy mood in the bedroom. Like dim the lights or light some candles, put some music on, add some essential oils like lavender, ylang-ylang, stuff like that. Take some time to connect in the moment, like look into her eyes. Talk about what turns each other on and what the turn-offs are without judgment, and respect them. And sometimes just talking about it can ignite the fire. I said, be curious, try different things, experiment with touch and positions, pay attention and find out what works and what doesn't work. And again, respect it if it doesn't work. And afterwards, don't just jump up and be done. Let the connection linger. Hold each other. Make eye contact. Feel the power of that vulnerable moment. Well, after I said all this, Earl was like, I don't know about all that. He said that it sounded good, but he didn't know if he could pull it off. And I told him that the main thing was that he and Marcia talked about it and really figure out what works for both of them. The next time I saw Earl, he said that talking with Marcia really helped. Marcia was very appreciative that Earl was open to explore new ways to connect. And they actually watched some videos online to get ideas on how to make their lovemaking more mindful. Earl was happy to say that their sex life was back on track. And that's a beautiful thing. I found this anonymous quote that sums it up nicely. It says, "We think we want sex. It's not always about sex. It's the intimacy we want. To be touched, looked at, admired, smiled at, laugh with someone, feel safe, feel like someone's really got you. That's what we crave." That's going to do it for this episode of the Men on the Path to Love podcast, the Let's Talk About Sex Part 2 episode. And remember, being mindful, aware, and present in making love and all aspects of your relationship, you are on the path to love and living the life you love. Here's a question for you. How is your work-life balance? Do you struggle with the time you spend at work and the time you spend in relationship? It happens a lot. Please join me for the next episode of the Men on the Path to Love podcast, as I will cover this on the My Relationship or My Career episode. And remember, if you have any questions or issues in your relationship you need help with, any comments or suggestions about the podcast, or just want to join my email list, please email me at bill@pathways2livingwell.com. That's bill@pathways2livingwell.com. And hey, if you know anyone you feel could benefit from the podcast, please share the link and share the love. And until next time, keep your heart open and stay on the path to love.